At my job, I get an hour-long lunch break. Right across the street is a boxing gym, and I go over there and I watch the fighters train. Some of these people are involved in blue-collar work. Back at my MMA gym, it's the same story. These guys have warehouse jobs. They're driving forklifts and stuff. And it makes me think, especially following the impressive win from Malcolm Wellmaker last weekend at UFC Fight Night Prates versus Machado Gary in Kansas City. Blue-collar work has got to be the best base for combat sports, especially in MMA, and there's been many case studies throughout history that we can go over, and I made this presentation so that we can. So this is going to be my picks of blue-collar folks in MMA who are just built different, and these are people that I would not consider to have soft hands, brother. So let's go through the picks. The first one is going to be the fighter I just mentioned, Malcolm Walla Wellmaker. This dude is a real deal welder, and a lot of his content on his Instagram page is actually just welding content. Him fitting pipes or working on machines like this. And going into his last fight week, he said that he'd quit his job if he got a performance bonus. And he put on the best debut performance that you could probably have. It was better than Talbot's knockout over that same guy. He obliterated Cameron Simon in one round with this check right hook that flew so quickly and with inhuman reflexes on it. He waited a little bit, got his performance bonus, and then on Monday he made this Instagram post saying that he quit his job. And everyone's a critic online. People were saying, oh, you might not have enough money to make it. I hope that this works out for you. Like, he shouldn't invest in himself and in this career after the performance that he just put on. If he were just some sniff grappler who made his 15-15 and didn't get the performance bonus and quit his job, but he has a plan, and it's not any of our business. So I don't know why people are pocket watching to the degree that they are. But I think that's remarkable because this job seems like it's really hard on your body. There's a boxer at the gym who works in welding, and he still shows up to sparring. And I know it's difficult. He's documenting these 8, 12-hour days. Sometimes he does like photo or video dump posts, and some of the videos will just be him patting himself and plumes of dust and debris just flying off of him. So I know this has to be hard on him. The fact that he's still making it to the gym, still training at a very high intensity, is quite remarkable for the fact that this is the type of work that he's involved in whenever he is not fighting, which is already hard enough on your body. I think it's wrong for people to be critical of the fact that he's choosing to invest in his future in the sport. He is a bright prospect. I believe in him a lot. This is one of my favorite upcoming prospects at featherweight for sure. The next fighter that we're going to talk about is going to be Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. And his coach, Matt Hume, would threaten to fire him if he didn't invest into his career more, at the point of him getting a title shot against Dominic Cruz. All the way up until that point, his coach was like, I think that you're great and you could be something, but you're not taking this serious. And I need you to stop working that construction job and get real about fighting. And I think that's a legitimate, actual grievance for him to air. But Demetrius Johnson just loves work. And he talks about how he would casually just do these 10 to 12 hour shifts working in construction. The company that he was working for, they built, the way that he described it was funny. He said whenever you unroll a toilet paper roll, that brown part, he basically made large ones of those made out of concrete all day. And was moving concrete and shoveling concrete. And he kept his job, and he only felt like quitting was worth it whenever he became champion. All the way up until then, he was just like, I have my girlfriend, I have this schedule that I've carved out, I enjoy working, so why would I not work whenever it suits my lifestyle? And I respect this a lot. This task is just more physically taxing than anything, because it's really just if you can handle it. 2 sources of income is going to be better for you than 1. But in order to access 2 streams of income, you have to put in a lot of physically demanding work. And he just kept a good attitude all the way throughout. And he became champion, and then he quit his job and started fighting full-time. Doing research into Demetrius Johnson's backstory for this video gave me a huge gust of inspiration. This guy's all about getting to it so that he can earn money and take care of his people. And he's a good man, honestly. I respect Demetrius Johnson a lot. Volkanovski's father owns a concreting company back in Australia, and he would pick up shifts to do extra strength and conditioning for his dad's company. This was back whenever he was 215 pounds too, whenever he was super into rugby. So he concreted with his dad, and he practiced rugby during the daytime, and then he trained MMA in the evenings. And I gotta ask, who do you think would win? A 215-pound Volkanovski pictured in the bottom left, or 170-pound Francis Ngannou to the right of him? Who do you think wins? Comment down below, please. That's also lore accurate Volkanovski in between the last photo and the first one that we just discussed. They used a fat filter on that photo. He wasn't ever that big. But we almost lost Volk to concreting because he had his first child before he had any real motion in his MMA career. And he was telling stories in an interview before one of his fights in like 2016 that people were coming up to his wife and being like, when is Alexander going to quit fighting? Because this is just like a complete waste of time. And those words would get back to him and he would be like, man, I feel bad. But he stuck with it, and look at him now. He returned to concreting for a sketch and probably did some real work after his KO loss to Ilya Topuria. The BMF fight happened where Ilya knocked out Max, and he did this little skit where he was talking to his old coworkers and being like, you see the BMF fight the other night? And they were like, yeah. He was like, I knocked out Max Holloway this one time. And they were like, no, you didn't knock out Max Holloway, dude. You've been here the whole time. And it was like this huge joke. It's honestly kind of funny. That sketch was pretty funny. Of all the Volk sketches, that was probably my favorite one. And then he comes back and he wins his return fight. Volk is such a Chad, bro. Oh my gosh. The next fighter is Stipe. That's a veteran joke right there, Stipe. He still is fighting fires to this day. As I'm talking to you right now, Stipe Miocic is riding on the back of the truck fighting fires in Ohio. He very much enjoys his job in downtimes between his fights. You see him fighting fires more and being at the firehouse more than he's actually like training. You never see him doing anything other than wrestling sometimes and being a firefighter. And he doesn't seem to have issues with being happy away from the sport because of the fact that he's involved in something that's not fighting and it is like a full-time career of his. Imagine the heavyweight GOAT saving someone's dog from a house fire. And they would be like, thank you, Stipe. And he'd be like, and you'd be like, he made only $14 an hour whenever he fought Fabricio Verdum in 2017. This is Ohio, though, so it goes a long way there, especially at that time. But he'd also make over $1 million a couple of times throughout the year whenever he was still fighting, and he still wouldn't miss his shifts, even regardless of this. And he talks about the fact that, this fighting career is really unpredictable, with sometimes you're able to fight for a long time, and you could suffer an injury at any moment that could sideline your entire career, and that belt would be no more. He lost the belt the natural way, getting chinned by Francis. That was the catalyst of his downfall, but we're not here to discuss that. I'm looking at these photos right now, and I miss that old belt. That thing looks clean, dude. Stipe is an exemplary role model for what it looks like to work hard and to live honestly and also be an active fighter in the UFC. He's doing it the right way. Merab Dvalishvili is another fighter that we're going to discuss right now. He worked in construction job and home renovation. It looked like he was always doing some work in houses. And you know what? I always talk a lot of crap on Merab and how I don't like him and how I think he should retire and stuff and how he's just Mario Batista with a few extra steps. But I respect his grind and hustle and the fact that he was so dedicated to making any type of life for himself once he got to America from Georgia. Even if it wasn't in mixed martial arts, he was dedicated to work really hard to the point where he would be undeniable in his standing in the world. And that is a very respectable quality because not a lot of people possess it. Videos of him wearing harnesses, laying roofing on the hot sun exist on the internet. So do videos of him laying brick walkways and even breaking down walls with spinning back kicks, which there's a photo of that. That's a pretty funny video. It seems he was always integrating training into the fact that he was working construction, and he was conditioning his body to be able to fight better through this intensive labor. And that's what it was all directed towards. And that's what he talks about because he dedicates his cardio to this job. But something that was also worth noting is that he talks about how whenever he got to America, he landed that construction job super easily, but it was really difficult for him to find an MMA gym or MMA fights. So as far as taking his career seriously, he was like, I've never been in America, and I have a little bit of money because I'm working in construction, so maybe I just try to have a normal life here. And I was a fighter in Georgia, and that was fun, but maybe I just don't fight in America. Maybe this is just not my life, and I just be a normal guy. And he did it for a little bit, but he talks about how he just got so fed up with that lifestyle and was getting frustrated with the fact that construction was his only avenue for income. And even though he was grateful for the opportunity, the way that he talks about it, you can really tell that he was fed up with being a construction worker and that he wanted to do something else. And so he takes a little layoff And then he's like, man, I can't do this. He like goes to work, comes home, watches TV, goes to clubs, links with girls. And then he's like, man, this just isn't for me. I need to train in MMA. So he goes back to the sport. Dana White ended up coming to check out Merab's fight with this guy named Rafian Stotts. It was a pro bout. And this earned him his UFC contract. He ended up scoring a spinning back fist KO over the guy. And this was a sick clip. It really sucks that Merab doesn't finish more people in his fights, because if he could knock them out like this every time, he would be one of the greatest fighters ever. For how much he wins, if it was always an emphatic and glorious finish at the end, we would all be the biggest Merab fanboys. But I am more of a Merab fan after doing some deep diving into his backstory. His story is super inspirational, and it's all about never giving up on your dreams, and I like these types of tales, so I will celebrate the fact that Merab didn't quit MMA and is still with us and is champion, because he is a model for hard work and what you can achieve if you actually focus on your goals. Geoff Neal is another entry. He works as a waiter at the Outback Steakhouse, and he has a tinge of a criminal background, so this may be court ordered. That is going to be a mugshot in the bottom left corner of the screen. This was before UFC 269. He was scheduled to fight Wonderboy. He was charged with driving while intoxicated and had possession of a firearm too, 16 days before this event. But I know Uncle Dana sprung him from the joint, and he still ended up fighting Wonderboy. And I thought it was funny because in the media day, I really paid attention to what he had to say, because he had just gotten out of jail not too long ago before then. It just made me think about whenever he popped out with some glasses on, that this one tweet I saw, and it's just a meme at this point. Dudes always go to jail and start wearing glasses. I never seen that boy Geoff Neal wear glasses, and then he goes to jail and starts wearing glasses. He does interviews in his car and stuff. He's not wearing no glasses, and then he just has glasses on after he goes to jail. That made me laugh thinking about that. The reason why him going to jail is significant, though, is for a reason that he says himself. This is per Geoff Neal. I remember when I first started fighting in the UFC, like, I'm not going to stop working as a server until I have $1 million in my bank account. I might really have to keep that vibe going, and I feel like when I don't work, I don't feel like myself. I feel like I've been doing the servant fighting thing for so long that kind of like defines me as a fighter and as a person. When I don't serve, I fall astray to other things. And this is Geoff Neal on why he continues to work as a server while under UFC contract. And that makes perfect sense, because for all the clowning that I've been doing on him up until this point, this is really all Cedric Dumas had to do. This guy's in jail right now being held on a $500K bond for a home invasion with a gun after like 14 other arrests in the same county. So, good on Geoff Neal. He duked it out with Ian Gary, Shavkat Rakhmonov. He was about to fight Carlos Prates, and he still served bloomin' onions afterwards on both weeks. So, like, I tip my hat to you. That's not even a joke. I wrote it trying to be funny, but, like, this is good work from him. Because if he didn't, and we actually just didn't get to see Geoff Neal fight anymore because he did something stupid and lost his freedom, that would make me salty. So I'm proud of Geoff Neal. You keep hustling. That's real. And I'm even more of a fan of him for the fact that this fact exists. The last man who absolutely toiled and hustled and struggled in the dirt is Khamzat Chimaev, the Smash Coin CEO. And this was most certainly not a criminal rug pull scheme. He works insanely hard to make sure his shareholders get good returns on their investments. Listen to this video of him promoting the coin and tell me whether or not you think that these are the words of a dishonest person.
Hello guys, there is one crypto coin about me, they call it Smash. Let's smash together guys, let's go.
So this was actually like a horrible method that Khamzat and his manager pulled over fans of Boars last year in July. This was an insider trading scheme. 78% of the millions of dollars that were inflated into this coin were coming from private parties and hedge funds. And the way that this pump and dump scheme and rug pulls work is that they inflate coins with their own money and they get other people to buy into the coin to raise its value, but they hold all the value of the coin. So the people who have this high market value, which is like 78%, is around this number, they just sell all of it. and they make all of the money, and all the people that were holding in hopes of profiting because the influencer, the fighter, whoever said, buy this coin, let's smash together, those guys are destitute now. So I don't know why people buy into these, but people got burned. They blamed Khamzat for it. The reason why we had to watch that video through a repost was because he deleted it on all of his other social medias. It's bad business. You can see the chart right there. And crypto websites were reporting on it the entire time that it was happening. Khamzat Chimaev laid low. He won against Whitaker, so it's kind of scrubbed from our memories now. This is the most dishonest thing that any fighter has ever done. As we're talking about all this honest work, this is horrible. Don't do this. Alright, that's going to be it on the video. I appreciate the support you guys have been showing lately. I'm excited to watch fights, man. We get some good fights this weekend. Really good fights next weekend. At least the main event. I haven't taken a look at the whole card, but it'll be time for that soon. Jack Della Maddalena versus Bilal Muhammad. I can't wait. I can't wait.